Well, good morning and welcome to Elevenses with Kevin Williams of Survival Skills Rider Training. It's show number 191. It's Wednesday, 24th of November, and looking out of the window, it's a fairly grey and miserable day at the moment, and it's pretty cold according to the thermometer too. We're well down into single figures now. Winter has definitely arrived. So what have we got for you in today's show? Well, some fairly chilly news about MC Edwards Insurance. Their business has failed. More on that in just a moment. You can also save 50% on a Tarmac Tactics ebook from my Black Friday deal, which will cheer you up a bit. MV Agusta 5.5 is targeting the middleweight adventure rider. Nawa Racer is incorporating nano-capacitor fast charge technology. We'll look at the Honda Navi. That's the story I carried over from last week as I ran out of time and asked whether it's a Mini-moto, a motorcycle, monkey bike, or a scooter. It's unbelievably 30 years since the first Fireblade was launched. The model dates from 1992, so there's a special anniversary edition out naturally. And we'll just give RST a quick shout out for an inexpensive waterproof over jacket before rounding off with today's discussion point, which is all about a scheme which helps improve drivers' understanding of cycling. And I ask, if they can do that, why can't they do one for motorcycling? Right, so plenty to talk about today. Settle yourselves down for the next 30 minutes or so, whilst we carry on with some topical news, sometimes controversial views, and even on every other week, some better biking tips. All right, okay, don't forget, if you have comments or questions, do let me know what they are. I will that's the button. I will get back to you if I possibly can during the show. If I can't get back to you during the show, I will talk to you at the end of it via the comment stream. So do fire away anything you want to say, any comments you have. Always interested to hear what you think. Christine and Martin have both looked in. Christine from somewhere rather local, Martin from Mongolia, where I think it's probably even colder than our sort of 5 or 6 degree temperatures that we have at the moment. Morning there to both of you. Right, okay, so on with the show. Now, as I said, the first news story of the day is some bad news. The Financial Services Compensation Scheme, the FSCS, has declared that MCE Insurance Company Limited has failed. Now, MCE Insurance is a Gibraltar-based company, and as you probably know, they sold motorbike, private car, van, and commercial vehicle insurance products in the UK. Now, they did that through their broker, MCE Insurance, and this is where things get a little bit complicated. FSCS confirmed that the broker is not part of the administration process. Now, the Financial Conduct Authority, FCA, press release from Friday says the Gibraltar Financial Services Commission has announced that MCE Insurance Company Limited has entered into administration. And it went on to say, MC Insurance Company Limited is an insurance firm authorised and regulated by the Gibraltar Financial Services Commission, operated in the UK on a freedom of services basis, which means customers based in the UK may hold policies with the firm. Policies were sold in the UK through their UK-based broker, MCE Insurance Limited. On 19th of November 2021, following an application for administration to the Supreme Court of Gibraltar, the company was placed into administration. The company ceased writing new insurance on 5th of November 2021 and predominantly wrote motorbike insurance and car insurance policies specifically for UK customers. Now, they go on to say existing insurance policies remain in force and are valid. If you are a policy holder with the company, your policy will continue to be administered by the UK broker MCE UK. So the confusing bit is that the broker MCE Insurance Limited, MCE UK, is based in Northampton, and that's what's providing the administrative services, including claims management to the Gibraltar-based company under that service agreement. So it does mean that MCE UK is not part of the administration process. Now, there's not a lot more I can tell you at the moment because there's not very little information on what's happening. It doesn't even seem to have hit the motorcycle news site, for example. I couldn't find find the story on there at all. So all I can do is point you at the FSCS website, and give you some information from there. Let me just put the link up to them. There they are. They basically say that the company was placed into administration being unable to pay claims, and they declared the firm in default on November 2021. Now, rather less reassuringly, the FSCS page says it's stepping in to protect the majority of policies ICL sold to individuals and small businesses in the UK, though it does say again on another page that your insurance with them is still valid. It says it does not automatically terminate or cancel your contract of insurance. So in the first port of call, if you are unclear about whether your insurance policy was actually backed by the MC Edwards Insurance out in Gibraltar, talk to your broker. And also, I would suggest that you take a look at the FSCS page there, which I have just popped up. So that is the news that the insurance company, MCE Insurance Company Limited, has failed. Bad news. Right, okay. Morning, Nigel. Good to see you here too. Right, okay, so on to the some good news. It is Black Friday coming up at the end of this week. It's the big US holiday, Thanksgiving, tomorrow, and although we don't celebrate Thanksgiving here in the UK, Black Friday has apparently become the biggest sales date in the UK calendar. So we have picked up that particular American trend, even if we don't eat turkey tomorrow. Everybody does seem to expect a bargain, so who am I to buck the trend? So what basically I'm doing is offering you my Tarmac Tactics ebook for less than half price. So stay online till the end of the show and I will tell you how you can save on that unique book. All right, okay, MV Agusta. Mention them, and most people either think of helicopters or pound signs, or the for their motorcycle line. Now, MV motorcycles have been traditionally exclusive and expensive, and the Italian marque has tended to concentrate on sports bike. But with the sales of race reps having fallen off a cliff, MV are changing their target market with a pair of adventure bikes. These are the Lucky Explorer 5.5 and the Lucky Explorer 9.5. Now, the MV press release, which came out, presumably translated into English from Italian, starts by attempting to tie the new bikes into the Paris-Dakar race with what I can only describe as a confused ramble. It makes Boris's speech actually look coherent. It starts with the death of the founder of the Paris-Dakar race, Thierry Sabine, then pays a gushing tribute to the Elephant model, which it says in its Lucky Explorer livery is probably the most celebrated icon of that historic desert raid. Which I suspect some other manufacturers may dispute. And it says that the bike is the emblem of the eternal struggle between the crudeness of nature and man. I'm not sure whether they're saying nature's crude and man's crude, or nature is crude and man isn't. There, I don't know. Anyway, that was me thinking that we were just talking about a couple of motorcycles. But anyway, the elephant in the room is, so to speak, is the Kojiva Elephant. It became a 1990s road bike with the backstory of those desert racers and also cigarette sponsorship. So let's dig you out a photograph of it. Where's my photo gone? Here it is. There we are. That's the Kojiva elephant. Now, brace yourselves because the story gets complicated from here on. Where did Kojiva come from? Well, in 1978, a metal industrial fittings company run by Giovanni Castaglione and his family bought the Aermacchi factory in Varese, and they called the new business Kojiva after the first two letters of Castaglione and Giovanni and Varese. So over the next 4 years, Kojiva went from strength to strength. They ended up buying Ducati, Moto Marine, Husqvarna, and by 1982 they were the biggest motorcycle manufacturer in Italy, and they purchased MV Agusta. It'd always been their first target, but they got hold of the company in toto in 1982. Now, Kojiva had always been keen to go racing, and they'd run their own GP 500 project for several years. And with all those resources, they were able to build the Kojiva Elephant Paris-Dakar bike around a Ducati engine. Now, by 1994, fast forward a couple of years, Kojiva are under financial pressure. The racing division closed. Ducati was sold off to the Texas Pacific Group in 1996. In 2004, Kojiva had to sell a big chunk of MV to a Malaysian car manufacturer, Proton. They sold their holdings to an Italian financial company just 1 year later. Then Harley Davidson stepped in, making one of the most bizarre decisions ever. They actually acquired the MV Agusta Group in 2008. That arrangement lasted just 1 year before HD sold the business back to Castaglione for just €1. Now, at roughly the same time, Volkswagen Audi Group had acquired a stake in Ducati, so Mercedes AMG bought into MV. But by 2016, they were looking to get out of the loss-making company, which is where Black Ocean Group, which was a UK Russian investment company, stepped in. They bought 49% of MV, who paid off Mercedes in late 2017. And MV finally became a totally Russian-owned company when the founding Italian family sold their last shares in 2018. So if you followed that, the current CEO of MV is Timur Sardarov, and MV is Russian, and it now has a tie-up with the Chinese QJ company. So hopefully you can see the link back to the original Kojiva Elephant, even if it is rather convoluted. There was a lot more guff in that press release. He must have kept the copywriter in heaven for days writing it. But here's the essentials. The bike labeled the 9.5 will use a version of the MV 3-cylinder motor. Now, it's been around in various guises since 2012, and it's said to be aimed at the more serious adventure rider. The 5.5, which is pictured here in a sort of a beautiful setting of a sunset, and you can just imagine riding that across the desert, can't you, in that wonderful photo. It's getting a 554 double overhead cam parallel twin, which comes from the Chinese partner QJ. The motor looks like it's going to be designed to be bang on that A2 limit for the intermediate riding license, with a 49.9 horsepower output, 7,500 RPM, max torque of 37.6 pound-feet at 5,500. So that should be a fairly sort of punchy engine rather than a revvy one. The good news is Euro 5, so it's future-proofed, and it has a claimed fuel consumption of 62 mpg, which would be about average for a 500cc bike. Now, the smaller machine there is likely to come, well, it is going to come with a 19 and 17-inch wheel combo, which basically says road oriented. The spec sheet, though, tells of an 858mm seat height, which is 33.8 inches, which is pretty tall, actually. Weight quoted is 220 kilograms, 484 pounds dry, which is a bit heavy. For curb weight, add on a fuel load of 20 litres plus other bits and pieces, so it's going to be at least 20 kilograms on top of that, and that does push the bike to way over 500 pounds, so it's not exactly racer-like. But you do get adjustable front and rear suspension from KYB. The front gets rebound, the rear shock is fully adjustable for compression and rebound too. You get the now standard Bosch ABS, the TFT display, Bluetooth connectivity to the MV app, which gives you turn-by-turn navigation. And one big plus I always think for a bike which will spend most of its time on target, those spoked wheels carry tubeless tyres. And I really think that's something that all manufacturers ought to have switched to in this day and age for a road-oriented bike. Oh, and the Lucky Explorer logo. Well, the bikes were originally sponsored by an American tobacco brand, Lucky Strike. Now, when the TV companies dropped cigarette advertising and branding for events, some creative, quick thinking had to be done. And in this case, the essential round logo was retained, but the name changed to Lucky Explorer. So there's the backstory to that particular machine. Okay, now I mentioned new battery technology just a day or two ago, and it seems as soon as I report on one, along comes another company touting a similar kind of technology. This time it's Nawa Technologies, and they've unveiled a zero emission motorcycle concept they're calling the Racer. Not exactly an original name for what they claim to be a unique technology, but hey ho. They say that the Nawa Racer is the electric motorbike of tomorrow, according to Pascal Boulanger, who's the founder of Nawa Technologies. And they aim to double the range that would be possible from a motorcycle using standard battery technology, and also to extend the lifetime of the battery system. So, what's the difference? Well, their new approach combines a standard lithium ion battery with what they call nano-based ultra capacitor technology. Now, the use of ultra capacitors, they say, allows quicker charging, and you also get something between 10 and 100 times greater energy density. And that means that you can reduce the size of the lithium ion battery pack, which means lighter weight, and at the same time, you can increase the range. So they're claiming 300 kilometers, 186 miles at urban speeds. Quite who would want to ride around for 186 miles at urban speeds? I'm not entirely sure, but anyway, never mind. The bike goes on display at the Milan show tomorrow, Monday 20, not tomorrow, next week, Monday 25th of November. So no, it is tomorrow. It's yes, let me get this right. It's 24th today, so it is the 5th. I don't know why I've got one Monday there, some typo somewhere. 25th of November, it's on a view, and if you want to see what it looks like, you can watch a teaser video here. The link is just going up in the comments. Right, greetings to Paul and Nigel, who've both looked in too. Don't forget, if you want to catch up with this show on a regular basis, just set a reminder. It goes out every Wednesday and Sunday at 11, nearly always live. Just occasionally I have to do a recorded show because I have other commitments. If you can't make it live, you can catch up here on Facebook, or maybe easier, head over to my YouTube channel, which is Survival Skills UK. Don't forget that all important UK on the end, and subscribe over there, and you will get all the updates, all the shows about an hour behind after they are posted up over there. Right, so okay, what else have we got to talk about? Well, if you have a long memory for motorcycles and you like the sort of oddball stuff that I must admit I tend to find myself interested in, you may remember the Gilera DNA. It appeared in 1996, so not quite as old as the Fireblade, and it ran till 2009, so it didn't last as long as the Fireblade I mentioned earlier either. The bike actually came out in 50, 125 and 180cc format, and what you'll see is that it's kind of fuses the style of a motorcycle with the practicality of a scooter. You had the engine mounted to the swing arm, just like a scooter. The petrol tank area, I think there was some storage under there, if I remember correctly. But you actually got that sort of tank between your knees design, which makes them a bit easier to ride, in my opinion, than a plain old scooter. But you also get 14-inch wheels on it, so it was quite a diminutive little bike. It was quite a nippy little thing, and for a while they were very successful sellers. You saw a lot of them around the roads on London for a while, but I think reliability was always a bit of an issue with the engines, and so the sales tailed off in the end. And that is, I haven't seen one for a while. I think about a year ago I spotted one, but that was the first for a long time. Anyway, Why do I go back to ancient history? Well, the reason is this bike here. It's the new Honda Navi. And the moment I saw it, I thought Gilera DNA. Now, like the DNA, the bike gets a swing arm hung 109cc single cylinder motor. You get twist and go CV transmission, just like the DNA. Rather surprisingly, the slightly under square single overhead cam motor is pretty old school because it gets its power or its petrol through a carburettor, which seems very odd in this day and age, but hey ho. You do get a hydraulic cam chain tensioner and roller rocker arms. Presumably, that's designed to offer some sort of robustness because this bike is likely to be sort of thrashed to within an inch of its life, probably by an owner who isn't particularly motorcycle savvy. So the bike's said to be good for up to 90 mpg. But just on 4 litres of fuel on board, so you will be stopping to fill up fairly regularly. You'll no doubt be glad of the fuel gauge if you take a long trip. And the storage is said to be useful for holding textbooks, a jacket, or a water bottle. Suspension, basic and unadjustable, but you do get 4 colour schemes on top of the fairly, well, I'm not quite sure what color it is really. It's sort of a limey yellow, isn't it? So yeah, whether it's a Mini-moto, motorcycle, monkey bike, or a scooter, I'll leave that to you to decide. I think they're quite cute actually. Probably be quite a fun run around for urban use. Unfortunately, you are unlikely to see one in the flesh. Because it seems to be US only at the price of $1,800 US. 12-inch, 10-inch tires as well, no ABS, and those tires are made by MRF of India. And no, I hadn't heard of them either. As I said, though, one Honda which is going to be hard to miss in the coming year is the Fireblade as it goes into its 30th anniversary year. It's hard to believe it's the 30th anniversary of the Blade. It seems to have been around forever. It's always been a bit of an uncompromising sports bike. If you want to see what makes the CBR 1000 RR SP Fireblade 30th anniversary edition tick, then you can head over to the YouTube channel and watch their teaser video, which I have just put up on the link there. Right, we've got a couple of comments. I'll just have a quick look at that one there. From Terry in New Zealand, battery technology, rapid developments are symptomatic of an industry in its infancy. Yes, I thoroughly agree with that. Terry says it may be worth looking at when it's reached maturity. Yeah, I kind of I see where you're coming from there, Terry. I mean, I don't entirely disagree. I think that current electric bikes are getting to the usable stage. The issue is going to be how quickly they are superseded by improved battery technology, and also to some extent whether that battery technology can be retrofitted to older bikes. The Zeros, for example, they do use a sort of built-in battery, but I believe that they can be taken out and changed. There is a battery exchange policy, so one would hope that if Zero can adopt an improved battery technology, they could sell that on to the owner of the bike at a later date. What else does James has said? Yes, a carber. Yes, indeed. It's bit unlikely, isn't it, in this day and age? Possibly because it's for the American market only. Terry also says he's looking at an RV200. Is that the big wheeled bike, Terry? I'm just trying to remember. And Sue's looked in and said good morning. Hello there, Sue. Right, okay, so don't forget, if you are enjoying the show, do consider popping over to my coffee page over there. You can catch all the old shows over there, as well as on my YouTube channel if you prefer coffee. And there was the option of looking at my large backlog of Facebook posts over there. Yes, and Terry says, yes, it is the fat tire bike. Yes, I thought it probably was. All right, okay, so rolling on quickly. Let's get rid of the banner. Yes. Right. Okay. So, where were we? Oh yeah, RST. I gave them a bit of a hard time the other day. Basically, I said that it was a bit out of order, really, to be advertising as for an all-round rider a jacket. Whoops, I just pressed the wrong button. A jacket with just an A CE rating. In this day and age, we ought to be doing better than that. But I'll give them thumbs up for this item. It's basically a very simple waterproof over jacket. Nothing fancy. You just literally slide it on over your existing clothing. They say it's designed to fit over leathers, but I would say that you can quite happily fit it over textile gear. It will provide an extra layer of waterproofing and windproofing layer too. And I notice it's cut longer at the rear than the front, which always is helpful with motorcycle clothing because it provides for that sort of ride up, which comes from leaning forwards. No frills, just that sort of what they call a parachute strap at the bottom, and Velcro arm adjusters. No mention of a hood, which is good, because I think they're a completely useless feature when riding. They usually bunch up around the neck and get in the way of turning your head, or they just get pulled out by the wind unless they're well secured. So I always say if you want to keep your head dry, get a hat. My experience with this kind of jacket is they are great when new, but the waterproofing fails after a couple of years, at which point they go in the bin and I buy a new one. Now, why am I giving RST a thumbs up here? Well, basically, competitors are listing basic proof nylon jackets at 40 quid plus. I've got an Oxford one, which I bought in a sale and didn't pay quite the recommended amount for, or I wouldn't have bought it. Day and Easy do a jacket like this, just literally just a simple nylon over jacket, and they price it at 60 quid. So all the more power to RST for putting this particular jacket on the market for just £15. So if you want to stay dry and bright this winter, why not go and take a look at that particular jacket? Right, okay, so one more comment. NZ says it's reopening for vaccinated tourists from 1st of May 2022. Yes, well, I would love to come on down. I think it's a bit late for a shiny side up that year, but we'll see. Maybe another year I will get out to New Zealand again. Certainly would look forward to that. Right, okay, so thanks, Terry, for all your info today. On to the last point of the day. And this is a scheme which popped up in an email into my letterbox during the week from the DVLA. And they were telling me about an initiative aimed at approved driving instructors called Cycle Savvy. And the aim is to teach the next generation of drivers how to understand, communicate, and cooperate with people who cycle. And they say it has to be done in a way which will positively impact the experience of the next generation's road users as the rates of active travel uptake soars. The email goes on to say that ADIs play an incredibly important role in helping the next generation of drivers interact with cyclists. Certainly wouldn't disagree with that. And so the aim of Cycle Savvy is to help those ADIs understand reasoning of people on bikes, why they ride in certain ways, why they do what they do. So where has this actually come from? What's going to happen? Well, it turns out that the driving instructor cycle awareness pilot was announced by the Department for Transport in June 2018, and an organization called the Bikeability Trust was tasked with delivering this project. And it was within the context of what's known as the Cycling and Walking Investment Strategy Safety Review. Phew. So, next question. Who are Bikeability Trust? Well, they turn out to be a charitable, incorporated organisation whose aim, quote, is to advance the education of the public in general and particularly amongst children on the subject of cycling. The Trust manages, develops and promotes the Bikeability programme, supports local Bikeability commissioners, schemes and instructors, and distributes Bikeability award materials. So it seems right now, Bikeability are actually offering a £500 bursary to anybody who wants to train as a Bikeability instructor. So back to how this dovetails in with car instructors. And basically, as I say, the Bikeability began to work with cycling driving instructor organisations who were represented on a DFT ADI pilot working group. And they work with the working group, they work with individual ADIs who contributed via an online survey in autumn 2018 and through development workshops in spring 2019. And what they say is they're going to put right the current paucity of cycle awareness learning resources for ADIs and learner drivers by providing resources ADIs can use for their own professional development and whilst teaching. And after the trial earlier this year, the scheme is due to be rolled out nationally. So all well and good. If you are a vulnerable cyclist, all that sounds pretty fantastic, really, doesn't it? But what if you are an equally vulnerable powered two-wheeler user? Now, once again, in the rush to push cycling to the forefront via active transport, I see motorcycling being left behind. The challenges that cyclists face in many ways resemble those faced certainly by commuting riders on low powered machines. But let's see the many diverse bodies that make up the broader motorcycling community's spokes persons, as it were, coming up with anything similar. Um, ADIs really are in the front line of educating the next generation of drivers. That's absolutely a given. And, assuming that motorcyclists do make the switch to electric bikes, I don't think motorcycles are going anywhere soon, despite the current crop of death of motorcycling shock horror stories that are in the press in the last day or two. I'll look at those in a little bit more detail next week, incidentally. Um, to my mind, the newly minted National Motorcyclists Council would be the ideal body to push forward to try to get a similar scheme aimed at ADIs on the table, but giving those ADIs more information about motorcyclists. Now, the interesting thing is, of course, there is a huge resource of qualified bike instructors out there just waiting to be tapped. And already, I would imagine, to explain to their car driving counterparts just how riding a bike and driving a car differ and what car drivers themselves can do to make motorcycling safer. Simple stuff, some of it, like understanding that filtering is actually legal. There's still an enormous number of drivers who think motorcyclists should not be filtering. The question is, who puts all this together? One of the things that struck me as an ADI motorcycle trainer was the complete lack of communication between different groups. The um, as motorcycle instructors, we barely talk to each other. You work for the company you work for, but there were no discussion, no debate with other instructors from other companies unless you happen to know them personally. There was no way of feeding information into any kind of pyramidal system where it went up and then came back down to the broader group. And there was absolutely no communication with the car HGV, PSV, or any other ADI system. Yes, the DVSA now do produce a glossy magazine, which goes out to ADIs, which you can read, but it's not quite the same as actually giving people teaching resources, which is really what it's all about, in my opinion. So I think it's something that the NMC should be looking at. Possibly even MAG should have a look at it. I often get a hard time from rider groups, incidentally, for pushing the personal responsibility angle when it comes to rider safety. One of the things that whoops, I've just press the wrong button completely. One of the things that I do talk about, obviously, quite a lot on Science of Being Seen is the need to take personal responsibility for our safety. And that's come under some criticism from groups who believe that if we look after ourselves, we actually absolve other road users from looking out for us. Well, I don't believe that for a moment. I believe that we make mistakes. All of us, we're all human. We all get things wrong on the road. And I will continue to push science of being seen. And just as an aside at this point, the next show is on Wednesday, the 1st of December, so just over a week's time, 8 p.m. You can still book up for it there. Please come and do book up if you know anybody who might be interested. Car drivers as well, do invite them along to the presentation. So I do hope that I can redress the balance somewhat when people say as I say, that I'm not looking out for bikers, by saying that standing ready to look after ourselves on the road in no way absolves the drivers from some responsibility, and that includes obviously the driver education community from tackling the issue of collisions between cars and bikes from the opposite direction. Right. Okay. So just a couple more comments. Martin says he believes RST play games with CE levels. Well, I don't know about that exactly, but I mean, if they are tested and they're now declaring the level of protection, that's fine. I think the problem has always been that there were certain brands marketing garments at the premium end of the market that didn't actually stack up in terms of protection, but you had no way of telling unless you were an expert. Paul Varnsbury has talked about that at some length. Right, so yes, all right, so that's coming back to the RST story and that cheap jacket that I gave you a moment ago. Martin's asked for tips on cold weather riding. I did actually cover heated clothing and why it's such a boon just a few weeks ago, Martin. Maybe dig out the old show. I'll see if I can find a link to it and put it up later. Right, okay, that's it for today. Just that Black Friday offer to come, as I promised you. There's what you get. You get the Tarmac Tactics book. It's the second book in a series of 3 that I have written. Each looks at different aspects of motorcycle riding technique. Mind Over Motorcycle investigates the sort of mental side of riding. Survival Skills is a structured book looking at how to build your road riding techniques by following easy to follow exercises. And Tarmac Tactics directly addresses the kind of situations and hazards you'll encounter whilst riding. So it's a sort of a book about the riding environment. So all 3 take a slightly different angle. If you've already read Motorcycle Roadcraft, you may be wondering why read another book. Well, the answer to that is Roadcraft offers a framework for advanced riding for sure, but what it is weak on is practical examples. And that's not a criticism of the book, but it is a major limitation. What happens when we arrive in a novel situation that we haven't encountered before? How will we recognize what's happening? What do we do about it? Well, basically, that's where the book comes in. It offers practical problems and gives you practical solutions to those problems, both in everyday sort of riding environments, but also takes you out to some more unusual environments you may encounter. So you'll ride with me in Tarmac Tactics from city centre to mountaintop, and I'll show you how to deal with the problems posed by road layouts, the weather, other road users, and more besides. So basically, whatever you ride, wherever you ride, however you ride, Tarmac Tactics is guaranteed to help you cope with 21st century roads. The deal is that the book normally costs $10.34 as currency fluctuations allowing. As an ebook, you can get it direct from my coffee page there for a £5, but there are only 50 copies available and they are going already. So head off to coffee over there and you can order your page there. Right, okay, Martin, I think that is actually something to come back to on another occasion. Martin's talking about the range of different ratings. Yeah, I take your point, but I'll come back to that on another show, Martin. Right, everybody, thank you for looking in. As I say, don't forget 11s in a week's time. on Sunday. Don't forget, the Science of Being Seen on Wednesday next week too. Training course is still available on nice days, and do take that offer up on coffee if you want some winter reading material. That's it for today. Stay safe out there, stay shiny side up, and look forward to seeing you again very soon.